Last night was one of the darkest and clearest nights I have ever experienced here in Ohio, and check out what I got as a result. Well, what'd you think? I'm not gonna lie, I was super happy with that image. In fact, it's one of the only ones that I have taken where after editing and everything was done, when it was kind of up there on full screen on my large monitor, I genuinely just sat there and sort of took it in, and I was really quite pleased with it. I'm not sure about the final edit, might be a little tweak here and there, but I'm really happy with where it's going. If that place looks familiar to you, I'm going to post it. I think it's here, there, somewhere. I'll post a link. I did another video not long ago on tips and tricks to capturing the Milky Way in Ohio, or kind of east of the Mississippi, with some of the differences that we have here. And in it, I talked about scouting. That location is actually what I had scouted as part of that. So even not only did the weather help me, but also it was a scouting payoff. Now, beyond that, I wanted to talk a little bit about how I captured that picture, at least a little bit technically. That is a total of 21 images that generated that. One was a 10-minute exposure with moonlight for the foreground. And then about 2.5 hours later, after the moon had set, I came back, set my camera in as close to the exact same position. I ended up luckily nailing it almost exactly. And I took 70 photos over a time span. I wanted to capture, I could see a smudge in the sky with my eye, and I wanted to capture as it moved all the way through the sky so that I could take 20 frames right out of the middle so that I could then stack in sequator, not sure how you want to pronounce it, for the sky image. Now, a little issue that you can get sometimes with going 10 minutes, especially in the summer. I shoot with an old Nikon D810, old now. I'm really happy with the camera, and as of right now, I don't see a really compelling reason to make me jump, especially with all the shake-up and mirrorless. I'm kind of waiting to see where all that shakes out, and I'm still in a holding pattern. The bottom line is that camera and sensor is getting a bit tired. It's a little long in its age, and anytime in the summer between 4 and 6 minutes in a single exposure, I start to get hot pixels. If you're not familiar with what hot pixels are, when you zoom in 1:1 or any larger, you'll actually see these little spots that are pure red, pure green, or pure blue, RGB. Those pixels just got so warm and excited from the light that was hitting them, they just tapped out and said, I'm green, or I'm red, or I'm blue. So when you zoom in, you can actually see those, and I'll show you that kind of over here. I'll zoom in really big and you can see some of those before I edited all of those little specks. For me, I dropped into Photoshop, I got the little magic eraser tool or whatever, and I just click, 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 click. It cleans them up super easy. It's a little tedious, but worth it in the end. Again, I really liked that natural light that the moon was providing, and I kind of waited for it in even 2 phases so that I could light the silo and the barn a bit differently. That way when the Milky Way was in the center, it looked like it was being done more naturally. So again, here's the time lapse of the 70 images that I took over that time that I made with the stills, and then I'm going to show you that image just for a bit again. All right, well, I just mentioned that that I had about 2.5 hours between the moon up. It was about 51% waning at that time when I took that image, so it wasn't even a full bright moon, but it was from the time I took the original photo, I had about 2.5 hours to kill until it set. So what did I do with my time? Well, because the sky was so clear and supposed to be all night long, I actually kind of went over to a new location and set up to another scout location and set up for some other sky images. And since I couldn't find a subject beyond the sky itself, I turned the camera around, slapped on my 50mm f1.8, and tried to do my first ever star trail. Here is that image right now. Well, I'd be lying if I wasn't I was pretty pleased with that as well, especially for a first attempt. A couple of things that I think could make it better, and then I've learned from my first star trail capture. First off, I really wished I had something just a little bit wider than that 50mm. I wasn't able to get that northern star right up in the frame so you could kind of get the full circle. I just sort of had the lower swoosh. And actually, I'm wondering if you had a little bit more of a not so dark and clear of a sky, if it wouldn't make for better star trails. And where I'm coming from on that is there were so many visible stars in the sky that it got a little busy. I don't know, it just kind of made it, I wonder if there was less stars visible, if it wouldn't have an overall better impact over that time. Speaking of busy, that road was pretty busy all night long, which was surprising. It was literally down this little nowhere, and my camera was set across the road over in the culvert on the other side. So when I set that up over there, every time a car would go down the road, I have to throw a frame or two away depending on how that worked out. And as a result, there's a few little gaps, and I'll show you that again over here where I missed a little bit of star trail. Now, I tried some settings in Sequator to kind of stack that a little bit better, and it never really wanted to refill that in. When I did some quick Google searching, it looks like there's some other softwares out there that might work and help me sort of pseudo blend in those little bit of missing frames a little bit. I'm going to search for that since I still have all the raw images to see if I can't make that a little bit better. But all in all, I'm pretty happy. So 50mm f1.8. I actually set it down to like f3.2. I don't remember my exact settings, and sort of adjusted my ISO to get a pretty decent exposure and about 20 seconds. So every 20 seconds I was snapping an image. Now I could have gone a little bit longer. It didn't matter since I actually wanted to capture the motion. I just knew that I might have some frames that I was going to have to throw away, and I didn't want a huge block of time. I also didn't want to make a bazillion images. That was like 300 images stacked together. So there's sort of a happy balance to whether you want a whole bunch of images where you can sort of take out smaller time slots of missing star trail if you need to throw a frame away, or the opposite side of it where you get the longer, and anyway, I think you see where I'm going with that. There's sort of a trade-off, and I'm going to continue experimenting and just sort of share what I learned. But all in all, I was pretty happy with using our truck Wilma, that's her name, as a subject and doing my first ever star trail as well. So yeah, other things I've noticed too, you have to be careful with a star trail with as many swoosh swirly things, as many star tracks as there are in there, depending on how I compress it. I noticed if I share online with a few friends when I did that, the phone compressed that image in a funny manner in the sky, and it kind of made it look really digital and bad. So I've had to export several different resolutions right out of Lightroom to sort of retain a more natural looking image, and that's what I had to share here. In fact, in this video, I've tried to do it a couple of times, and I'm going to do the best upload, but when I share the larger sizes, when I kind of zoom in, it's definitely much more clear than the compressed video down to 1080p, which is what I upload to YouTube. So anyway, hope you like those two images. Not the only thing I did the evening, because the sky was really quite good. I took just an image while the moon was still up a little bit. Right at the end of that time lapse, I kind of pointed back to the south and took just the big vista sky view image, still with a little bit of blue in the sky. And an interesting bit of conversation there, and I'm going to back up here. I'm going to try to show you two exposures just 10 minutes apart in a stack up. Here is one with the moon, and the moon was setting. It was about, I don't know, 45 minutes off of a full set in the horizon, and just 10 minutes later, here is the sky again. You can see the brightness level in the sky that the moon was doing. It was almost set here, and then just 10 minutes later, just that little bit lower. So it sort of shows, even with the 50% moon, how important it is to get that dark sky and get that moon down below the horizon line, or if you have a new moon or something really early in the phase, how much it helps if you're trying to capture the Milky Way. I think that's it for some of the tips. Oh, one more thing, I apologize. I mentioned in my last tips and tricks video that I linked to that I use hot hands. I shake up hot hands and I rubber band them to my lens, because here in the East we have a lot more humidity, and when we have drastic temperature changes from a warm summer 90-degree day down to a 60-degree cool night, it's almost like it rained. The grass will get wet and a lot of dew will settle. It actually happened so much on this night that the 2 hot hands on my lens did not keep it warm enough, and I was really fighting condensation building up on my lens throughout the evening. In fact, in that time lapse, you might have noticed towards the end the frames got a little jerky and further out. That's because I was having to wipe my lens off with a lens cloth after every exposure. So something to check if you're shooting in a humid area. Really watch the front of your lens. It's frustrating to take a whole bunch of images and then realize they're all looking out of focus and smudged. But that's it. I'm going to wrap up sharing a few more of those other images I took. I'll show you the final image, the final edited and stacked images of the light and dark that I showed earlier. And thanks for watching. If you found this useful, please hit the subscribe button. Also click that thumbs up to give me a like. And I could really use a little more than a plane going over as I wrap up. Double click that little alarm bell so you get notifications. Blah, blah, blah. Thanks for watching. Bye.